We're perfect human beings. But we can be better people. Hi, I'm Jim Daniels. And today, before I get into the wine drinking and the deep reflections, I want to address an audience. This is a special part of my audience that don't have the time to sit down and listen to me for half an hour or to, sit down and meditate. This audience is, how can I say it? They're in a crisis right now. This is my audience that's in debt. I'm not talking about, a parking ticket, credit card debt. I'm talking about debt. I'm talking about living in a room in a hotel that the county has provided for you, alimony, child support, school loans. I'm talking about debt, okay? I'm talking about they can't even stop to listen to nobody because more debt is coming in. To these people, this is for you. Just give me a little bit of time. If you give me a little bit of time, I'm gonna give you your first nice breath of air in a long time. All right, I promise. Just give me a couple of minutes and I'm going to help you manipulate, maneuver, and get through. All right, so here we go. This is about debt. This is for my audience who don't have time to listen to me maybe just once. Like, this is all you got. I'm with you. Here we go. Debt can get messy, and debt loves mess. Debt will attract more mess in your life because that's what it does. Debt is such an emotional, chaotic element that it attracts more chaos. You see this? This is a debt life. You got the brown string, which is unemployment. You got the white string, which is health problems, and you got the blue string, which is where you live. You got the green one, that's alimony. You got the pink one, that's what the kids need to go to school. All of this stuff gets all mishmash and messy. And in the center of this, in the very, very, very center of this, is this core lie. This lie is what attracts all this stuff, all this debt, all these problems. It's just this one beautiful, solid core lie. Now, what this lie does, it spins, and the more chaos it gets, the faster it spins. And the faster it spins, the more disoriented you get. And the more disoriented you get, the more problems come, and the more problems you start to make these big mistakes, and the more mistakes, the more frustrated you get. And let me tell you something, you can't see through frustration. Once you are frustrated, you don't know what's really going on in your life. All you know is that you need to handle these debts. The answer could be right next to you, and you will never see it because you're so focused on the frustration and the debt. I'm going to help you get out of that. Do you know that most financial problems can be solved with a letter and a signature? I know. It sounds simple. Debt is not the end all be all. Debt, this is the Jim Daniels definition of debt. Debt is something that you buy or buy into that doesn't pay for itself in an acceptable amount of time. I know people are like, what did he just say? I just said that debt is something that you buy or buy into that doesn't pay for itself in an acceptable amount of time. That's like a friend says, hey man, can I come and live with you for a little while? The friend comes and you expect him to pay half the rent, and in 12 months go by, they ain't paid nothing. That's debt. All right. Debt is like an exercise machine that you worked out once in 2 years, and now it's sitting there holding up socks. It's giving you no health benefits. That's debt. Debt is a relationship that makes you sad 5 days out of the week and happy 2 days out of the week. That's debt. That's emotional debt. We're going to talk about that one because that's a good one. I know people starting to perk up now. They're like, what? I got one of those. I've been one of those. Now, when we talk about debt, we have to look at our own value system. What do we consider value? What's valuable to us? If you have a relationship and whatever is valuable to you, you're getting, then you're not in debt. But like I said, if you're not getting it more than you're getting it, it's debt. It's emotional debt. Let's go on this one. There are many types of debt. There's emotional debt, there is financial debt, there is physical debt, there's fantasy debt. The first one we're going to talk about is a physical debt. A physical debt is something that you have in your home that's taking up space, and you have to pay for it to keep working, or you have to pay for it to look good. This is a physical debt. This is something that you don't even use, but it's taking up a lot of space in your home, and it's costing you. And it might not be a lot, but it's costing you, and you're not getting any benefits for it. What we're going to do with this is play what I like to call the 50% rule. And now going back, this is for my people who are in debt, who was like, Jim, can you talk about debt? Since you're talking good stuff, let's talk about debt. This is about debt. We're going to do the 50% rule. If you have something in your house that's 2 years old that you are not using anymore, this is what we're going to do. I want you to get a rag, shine it up, make sure that it's working properly. Now, be careful, because once it gets shiny and the dust is off, you might want to keep it. Don't fall for that. That's some emotional stuff. Don't fall for it. What you're going to do is you're going to shine it up, and you're going to sell it for 50% of what you paid for it. Or if you're still paying for it, you're going to sell it for what you owe. All right? The problem is we need to get rid of it. We need to get it out of your way, out of your house, because that physical debt is constantly reminding you of your character flaws. It's constantly reminding you of your shortcomings. It's constantly saying, look, you know, you bought me and didn't even use me because you're lazy, or you know, you're a loser. We want to get rid of that. There's stuff in your house that if you got rid of, you would feel better. You would actually feel better if you got rid of a lot of stuff in your house, and you save a little money in your pocket too. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to take that debt, we're going to get rid of it. 50% of what you paid for it, or if you still own it, you're going to sell it for what you owe. Get it out of your face, because it's killing you. All right, now let's talk about those services that you have. A lot of us have 740 channels that we pay for, and we use 4 channels. 4. That's debt. That's debt. What you're going to do is you're going to call your provider Any service. I don't care if it's foot rubbing to cable. I don't care. Call them and say, I want to downgrade to the minimum. And then ask them, how much will that be? Once they give you the number, say, I'm going to call you back in half an hour. Hang up the phone, go on the internet, type in, the service that you want, say cable, put the number in that they just gave you. They say $49, put it in. If a company comes up that's lower than that, what you do is you call your service provider back and say, I want to cancel it and go with the other one. You see what I'm saying? You cut it down at least 50%. Sometimes you can go as low as 70%, but we don't need all that. We don't need all that. Okay. Now, that should save a little bit of money, and your house should look a little bit more open. You should have a little more space. But what we want to really do is stop reminding ourselves of our own shortcomings. We want to get rid of that old stuff that's attached. See, the funny thing about debt is a lot of debt was obtained because we were excited about getting something new. So basically, we obtained debt through an emotion, and now that thing that's costing us is attached to an emotion, and we want to keep having that emotion, so we keep the debt around. That's crazy. That's crazy. Let me show you. There are other ways to get that emotion and to feel accomplished without getting debt. A fleeting passion can turn into a gnawing debt anytime. You hear that? A fleeting passion can turn into a gnawing debt. I know a lot of people just started touching their wedding rings and started spinning them down. They're like, you know what? He's costing me a lot of money and I'm not getting what I want. Hey, you know what? I get that. But I'm talking about you just get into a feeling when you get something new because you feel new. When you get something new, you're like, ooh, it's a good day. I feel new. But then that newness, passion just goes away. And then you're back with that debt. And that debt be eating at you like, every month you're like, what is going on? And that's what's happening. Any debt that you have, say your home or your car, that should be part of your financial vehicle, which means that all of us have a way that we earn money. You know, we might have a 9-to-5 and then sell pies at our house. We all have our own unique financial rhythm or a financial way of getting money. Now, your house, your clothing, and your vehicle should not take up more than 70% of your income. Because then what's happening is that you're basically using 70% of your income to pay for the tools that are used to generate 70% of your income. That makes sense. It's like this. Let's say you lived in the desert and you had to walk 10 miles to get water. Okay. And you walked those 10 miles and on the way back, some spilled, some evaporated. By the time you got back, you lost 70% of the water. You will be forced to go back the next day and get more water because you only have 30% left. Let me explain it again. If you lived in the desert and you had to walk 10 miles to get water, you walked the 10 miles, and by the time you got back, you lost 70% of the water. That's what I'm talking about. That's debt. And there's more to it now. Think about the wear and tear on your body. Think about the wear and tear on your shoes. Think about the dry skin. And what if you get sick? What if you get sick one day? Or what if they tell you, hey, you can't come here and get water no more. You have to go somewhere else. You better have a backup plan. You see, that's debt. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of, oh my gosh, what if that happened? What if you lived in a desert and they told you couldn't come here and get water anymore? Well, that's the same thing as debt. Debt keeps you hostage. You have to keep going. If you don't feel good, don't matter. Your foot fell off, it don't matter. You better hop through the desert and get you some water, because you know what? We all need water. That's debt. You feel that frustration and that you feel, oh my God, anxiety, like you have to go get water. And what if you have kids who like, we need some water? Yeah. I am using water for money, but you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying? We don't want to have a life of debt. That's a life of debt. The next thing I want to talk about is emotional debt. Emotional debt is when you have a relationship that is emotionally based, that makes you more sad than happy. And I could probably put that better. Emotional debt is the expectation of being happy most of the time, and you end up being sad most of the time. That's emotional debt. And believe it or not, 90% of financial debt is tied into emotional debt. If you are unhappy, you are going to waste a lot of money trying to be happy, because we as human beings need to be happy, and we will spend a lot of money trying to be happy. So a lot of the financial debt that we take on is because we were trying to find some happy place. Let's say you hate going to work and you're there 5 days a week, and you and your boss have a terrible relationship, and on those 2 days that you're off, you drink like a fish. And then you drink like a fish on Sunday night, you're all drunk, you're driving, you get pulled over, you're drunk driving, you get a ticket, get arrested. You know, it just adds more emotional burden. Or let's say you're in a bad relationship and it's so bad that you go out and you cheat. And then you get an STD or something. Well, that adds more stuff to it. Or let's say that you don't like yourself. You have a bad emotional relationship with yourself, so you eat to feel comfort, and then that adds more. You see what I'm saying? Emotional debt gathers more emotional debt, and it gets financial debt and legal debt and everything. Let me show you how to get out of emotional debt. If you are in a relationship with someone that you do not live with, this is what you do. Before you can get out of emotional debt, you need an emotional holiday, which means you need at least 7 days where you are not getting any negative input from that relationship. So you tell that person, I'm going to take 7 days to myself. I don't need phone calls. Don't text me. Don't write on my wall. Don't send balloons or monkeys with messages. I want not to hear from you. If that person gets angry, I mean more angry than you've ever seen them, leave the relationship. I could explain why, but we're adults. Leave the relationship. You know why. If that person gets mad and doesn't even hear you because they're so infuriated by those 7 days, leave the relationship. Now, if that person gets sad but gives you the 7 days, you take those 7 days, you write down your expectations that you have of that person. After those 7 days are over, you give it to them and you talk about it. If on the other hand, you get angry about those, in between those 7 days, you need to stop and figure out what emotional gap that person is feeling in your life, and then figure out, is it healthy? If by chance you get happy during those 7 days, leave the relationship. Okay? If you get sad during those 7 days, do the same thing. Write down your expectations. After the 7 days, see the person, explain it to them, give it to them, see if you guys can work it out. Okay? Now, if you live with the person, and I know people are like, this is more complicated. We have kids, it's more complicated. It's not. It's actually easier. What you do is you get a list of 20 things that needs to be done around the house. Take those 20 things, list them, write them down, sit down with your partner and say, hey, we need to do these 20 things in the house together in the next week. Okay? Give it to them. Make sure that you guys are in agreement on how you're going to do it and when you're going to do it. Okay? When that person doesn't show up for one of those scheduled duties, pull them to the side and say, hey, you and I had an agreement that we were going to do this, and now you're not honoring this agreement, just like you do in the relationship. You see, this is pretty cool. A person who is not committed to a relationship cannot honor being with the other person through 20 duties. It's psychological. I don't know why, but for some reason that there's a bond. When you have so much stuff to do together, there's like a bond. And if the person doesn't want to be there, it forces them to find an excuse not to be there. I don't know, I don't know why, but it's psychological. 20 is a number. They might get through 10. When they get to that 11, they'll be like, I can't do this. Then you address them and ask them, are you willing to make these sacrifices for the relationship? Are you willing to do the work for the relationship? That's if you live with a person. I guarantee you it'll work. 20 things, 1 week. If they drop the ball at some point, ask them if they're really committed to the relationship. This will give you that emotional release, because emotional debt, I said, is crazy. It will cause more emotional debt, more emotional debt, more emotional debt. You have to take a holiday. If you can't take a holiday, you have to get some resolution. Let's talk about fantasy debt. Fantasy debt is when a friend or family member does something for you, gives you advice on how to make money, or just because they're your friend or family, thinks that you owe them money. And it only becomes debt when you get it in your psyche that, yeah, I do owe them something. That's fantasy debt. Like, you don't owe them anything. Okay, let's rewind this back. If they are so valuable and their friendship is so valuable, they should have taken whatever they had, went and made their own money, and then gave you the advice. Or if they're saying that, oh, because I'm your friend, I'm your family, you owe me money, well, you should say to them, well, then, can you show me some checks of other people who have written them for you? Because I'm not going to be the first one to pay you for your friendship. This is not your debt. This is called fantasy debt. People will come in on an emotional level and then try to hijack you for financial rewards. You can't do that. That doesn't work. And don't you internalize this debt as being yours. Like I said, it's fantasy debt. And the problem with a fantasy debt is that you can never satisfy it. A fantasy can never be satisfied. because the fantasy keeps moving forward and forward and forward. Okay, so do not take on this debt in your own psyche. If you choose to give them money later, that's fine, but don't feel obligated. This is a fantasy debt. This is an easy one. Don't do it. I don't care what they say. Oh, I'm your cousin, and we used to play together. It don't mean nothing. No, this is not your debt. Don't take on fantasy debt. That's that. Don't take on fantasy debt. I'm your uncle. Don't take it on. Just don't do it. Don't do it. That's my advice on that one. This one's the easy one to solve. Don't do it. You are not obligated to take care of anyone. Routine debt is a debt that you have all the time. It's fine as long as it isn't taking up 100% of your income. If you're using all your money to pay for the tools that you need to go make money, that's like walking 10 miles in the desert, going and getting a bucket of water, and by the time you get back, there's no water in the bucket. Like, that's torture. That is torture. Get out of that. First thing you need to do is either find a new job or find a new home. Because if you're spending that much money, you're probably spending it on travel and time. Let me tell you something. You can sacrifice $5 an hour and get a job that's around the corner from your home. And that $5 an hour will turn into $10 an hour that you're making, because you don't have to leave at 4 in the morning. You don't have to worry about catching a cab, and you don't have to worry about missing the days, and you don't have to worry about the aggravation and the anxiety. Listen, if you are living paycheck to paycheck, you are basically torturing yourself. You could just stop working and do better. You could just sit down on your porch, fill out a couple of forms, and do better, because that's torture. And as I wrap up this whole debt thing, even though I was talking to people who are in debt crisis, anyone could take any of these tools and use them. I'm sure a lot of us are doing okay, but I might have said something to say, hey, he's absolutely right. Why are we paying so much for this and we don't even need it? Anyone can use it, but I know there's just a lot of people who are out there who are just, I've been there. Oh my gosh. I remember one time I lost my job and I had to move out of my apartment in the middle of the night. And as I was moving out, my landlord called the cops. So I was trying to move really quickly. So I jumped in a van, sped away, hit a telephone pole. Okay. Yeah. So the cops came, I got arrested, they took my ass to jail. And then I had to pay for the telephone pole. You know how much a telephone pole costs? It took me 2 years to pay for that telephone pole. I still got it. It's mine, I paid for it. I use it for all types of things. I dry socks on it, stretch my back on it, I don't care. Are you kidding me? So listen, I've been there before. I've been in a mess. Debt, money. I'm making a joke about it, but I get it that a lot of us are in crisis, financial crisis, and we have a lot of debt. Earlier, I told you that most debt can be solved with a phone call and a signature. Get a pencil. This is going to be good. This is what I want you to do. I want you to call the company that you have debt with. Find out who the billing manager is. Get their name. Get their name. Write their name down. And then I want you to write this letter. Here we go. Dear so-and-so, I would like to know if I can adjust my balance with your company due to my financial hardship. And what you're going to do is you're going to make a copy of all your bills. Every bill that you have, make a copy of them. And you're going to send it with this letter. And then in the second paragraph, you're going to say, as you can see, I have routine financial obligations that keep me from paying your company what is owed. If there is any adjustment that you can do on my account, it would be greatly appreciated. I can be contacted at this number, blah, 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 blah. Put your phone number in your email. And then what will happen is that person is going to contact you. Answer the phone, answer their email. That should work for you. That should do it. That should do it. That's my little pearl. That's my little pearl for you guys. All right. So I'm going to talk to you guys soon. You guys did great. Be amazing. Be amazing. Let's go.
I told you, it's for you guys. Listen, you jump. You don't walk, you don't teeter on the edge, you jump. That's the way to do it. That's the way to get down to the ground and keep running. Don't let nothing mess up your momentum first you hit the ground. You hit the ground, you keep going. Let's be amazing, people. Let's go. That was it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Thank you, man.